So we finally have them. We finally have the rules of engagement, or at least we've got the timeline of the Conservative conference. Well, not the conference. We'll get in that in a moment. We've got the timeline for what is going to be the Conservative leadership competition, and ultimately, it is going to take place very, very much over the summer. Prior to the conference, they're going to sort of whittle it down to 4, and then, as we'll see in a moment, it's going to be used as some sort of beauty pageant to wow the crowd, to enthrall the Conservatives, to try and get them to vote for them, which is going to make it a very, very interesting conference. A very interesting conference, that's for sure. But after that, there's now going to be or at least an expected to have a new leader installed by the beginning of November-ish. I can't remember the exact date now, but it's November. And of course, at the time I'm doing this, it's actually Tuesday, just coming up to 10 o'clock. And I don't know at this point if anyone's announced in the past hour or so. I'd be very surprised if anyone has. But by the time this video goes out, there may have been Conservatives throwing their hat into the ring. It would not surprise me if that has been the case since then. And no doubt we will be going over who our happy crew of cast of candidates it is going to be. But to be honest, if you've been watching my videos about this Conservative Civil War, you already know who's going to be our cast of candidates anyway. So going to be interesting. But the conference, oh my, it's going to be brutal. Like, this conference, could I sneak in? Is there a way I could sneak in? I do not know, but I'll tell you what, if I could find a way to sneak in there and view this in person, oh boy. Oh boy, will that be interesting. So, before we begin, as always, before we go into talking about Will Atkinson, who seems to, well, be more enthused about the free champagne he'll get at the Conservative conference than, the actual, potential, gladiatorial combat that will take place right in front of him. Please do remember to click on the like, the share button, and of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page, the Buy Me Coffee link, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there is the Pony Club down below as well. And of course, it is Wednesday, so there will be a new Pony Club video out for all you Pony Clubbers, and of course, the Patreon members as well. So let's get into this then, shall we? But before we do that, thank you very much to everyone who does support the channel, even if you do just click on the like and share button. So let's crack on into this then, shall we? Over we go to Conservative Home. So a leadership beauty pageant could make this year's party conference one for the history books. Oh, it certainly will. It certainly will. Probably for all the wrong reasons, Will. So it starts off. What makes a good Tory conference? For me, it's hosting duties, going off without a hitch, and the free champers being readily available. Wow. Totally. Yeah, well, 'tis a conference. I've been to conferences where I knew should we say, been more interested in the free booze than what's going on. But hey, there you go. Something me and Will probably share in common there, but who knew? Ooh, small world, as they say. So readers' preferences may often differ. Continues. A grand tradition of party participation dating back to 1867 has always given way to a stage-managed exercise of corporate and media belly tickling. Without our Conservative home panels, would it be half as enlightening? And bear in mind, it is worth pointing out that the last Tory conference, Conservative Home were the big headline sponsor. Like, they were the big headline sponsor of the last Conservative conference. This is what I keep on reminding people, why we keep on looking at Conservative Home time and time again, because they have almost a direct line into the non-parliamentary party. As we saw yesterday as well, where we had that MP, that would have never have made it into something like the Telegraph or the Daily Mail or something like that. It only ends up here. But that gave us a very, very clear picture of where many of the Tory MPs sitting in Westminster currently are. And his view, as we said back then, was very naive. So do go check that video out if you want to go see that. But again, it's why we go to Conservative Home, because it has that reach into the party, and almost you can see it even now. Will is very much part of this young Conservative crowd that appears to be sort of popping up, wanting to make its voice heard. How much of a voice it will have in the coming contest, who knows? But very interesting to see where Will Atkinson comes down, or who he decides to support. But onto this. So our annual jamborees are not always held in the highest regards by its attendees. In 1960, Christopher Hollis, the ex-Tory MP, wrote that a Conservative conference is and intends to be the most dullest thing that ever happens. Members, he suggests, came not to hear what their leaders had said, but what might have been worthwhile to cut the speeches together and have things actually improved. Well, to be honest, not very much so. But anyway, 1 second. So anyway, we're back. So yeah, Tory conferences doesn't give the most, shall we say, sparkling shall we say, presentation of a Tory conference, but a party conference is a major point for any party, especially with the activists, because it's very at that point where the party will very much engage with the activists, both within the party and without the party, outside the party as well. That's why, fringe events have become such a thing in and around these party conferences, in an attempt to sort of persuade the members of the non-parliamentary party. It's why they are quite important in many ways. But there you go. So onto this. So my experience of the last two, he continues, is that they reflect at that time the leaders' qualities. Really, they reflect the leaders' qualities, which of course will have been Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak. You must not have had a very good conference experience under those. Well, anyway, under Liz Truss, everything was on fire, but it had a very mesmeric attraction to it that made it impossible to draw your eyes away. And one of those Russian dash cam crashes under Rishi Sunak, it was far less fractious, but at least hardly enthralling. And was overshadowed by the huge HS2 headline crisis very early of Number 10's own making. Yep, something again that Labour still need to absolutely address. But hey, what are you going to get under this? Because remember, at the moment, there is no technical leader. You might have an interim leader under this. We don't know if Rishi Sunak's going to stay on that long. Maybe he'll go. Maybe he'll stay. Who knows? We haven't heard anything what he's going to say about this. But you are going to get, I think, this Conservative Party conference, what is going to be an absolute dirge. It is going to be the biggest dirge you have ever seen. It is going to be down. It is going to be depressing. There's already stuff that's saying that businesses are going to stay well away from this party conference, which for a Conservative conference is highly unusual. But even they, I think, know what is about to take place. It is going to become a coliseum, and what will take place will be a gladiatorial battle for the verbal ages. A verbal dueling and fisticuffs will take place. And oh boy, will it be interesting. But Will continues. In the shadow of defeat, this autumn's edition might have been a very much gloomfest. With the leader's identity uncertain, the only defining features would be a very angry activists, very bitter ex-MPs, and a miasma of hopelessness from staring down the barrel of opposition. Not the happiest long weekend, but not for the first time. It looks like the 1922 committee has ridden to the rescue of members. It's still going to be like that. You are still going to get so many angry activists, so many bitter ex-MPs. That is going to be very, very, very much built in. Be very interesting to see what the fringe events turn out to be and what happens around those fringe events, just as what is going to be interesting as what actually happens within the party itself. So back to this. So Bob Blackburn and his merry men have now drawn up their recommendations for the leadership contest timetable, requiring the party board's approval, hopefully given tomorrow, They will take the beauty pageant over to the coronation ceremony, upon which the two outliers will then arrive from Sunday. So, bear in mind, I did say at the start of this video, oh yeah, we've got a timeline. It might not be approved. It depends what the party leadership is going to say. Hopefully they'll approve it. I think they will. I doubt they will, but if they don't, oh boy, that'll be interesting. Anyway, so if the board gives its proposals, the positive police verso, and the contest will now, of course, run until November the 2nd, when the new leader will be unveiled. The would-be candidates will then need at least 10 nominations by 2:30 by next Monday. So next Monday by 2:30, we're going to know who the candidates are. But again, it's hardly going to be surprising. We already know who's going to be in there. So with the contest kicking off tomorrow at 7 p.m., the campaigning will then take place across August, with the parliamentary party then whittling it down to the final four in September. So, actually, at the beginning of this video, it will have been going just then. So we may have already had some announcements, nominees. So there probably won't have been any, but there may have been some on Wednesday morning. So the thing and the set stage is now set for the conference in spring of 2005. This obviously, the remaining candidates will then be given prominent speaking slots to do their best David Cameron impersonations for the members and MPs. They will at least hope to find a final two that survive more trimmings by MPs over on to October the 10th. And oh boy, I'll tell you what must that atmosphere come out if it's been an absolute, wrestling match, an absolute mudslinger, which it will turn out into. It will absolutely turn out into. They will not hold back. Whoever those final four are at the conference, whoever emerges from it, going to be very, very, shall we say, broken noses, and from that, because it's going to be an absolute battlefield. The conference, like I say, if I could find a way to sneak in there, oh boy, it would be fascinating. But we will then proceed to the outlined ballot of the party members, culminating in almost appropriately on Halloween to vote. Members of this men have signed up for the party by over 90 days before the ballot closes, and then been an active member at the time of the nominations. In a suitably very vague formations are so beloved by the party's nomenclature, the white smoke then emerges over 2 days later. Sunak says that it is in the national interest for us to have a very smooth and orderly transition to a new leader of the opposition. So he will then stay in post until November 2nd to enable the Conservatives to fulfill the roles in an official position professionally and effectively. He will stay on longer than any demonstrated Prime Minister since James Callaghan, and Santa Monica can at least wait. Yeah, I don't think he's going to stay around fully either. I would be very surprised if he sits out as a member for the next sort of 4 years. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't. Maybe give it a year before he goes, but I can see him going very, 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 very quickly, or at least very quietly, shall we say. Party members and MPs can then at least be grateful that Sunak has spared us the faff of trying to find an interim leader, unless Rachel Reeves decides to bring it forward. A new leader will be in place for the autumn statement, and Michael Atherton will only have to bat out a few more PMQs. Nice analogy there. But in the meantime, we'll see. And then, of course, I fully expect it to be Kimmy Badenoch. Like I say, I think Kimmy Badenoch's going to win. The idea that she doesn't win at this moment, I think, is a fool's bet. It's a very bad bet to bet against her. She's got this, I think, quite easily in the bag. That's, of course, again, if she doesn't make any gaffes or anything like that make the party, well, think again. But we'll see what happens. But I think it is going to be between Tom Tugendhat and her. Now, of course, down to the four candidates and are now hunting out for votes. They'll be making speeches and, of course, embarrassing themselves for the media. This year's colloquium will go down, and with 1963, 2005, deciding the party's future on the conference floor. Having a read of Rudolph Churchill's Fight for the Tory Leadership, I can think of only several authors who might have had a very similar chronicle ready just in time for Christmas. In the final four, there are Again, Kimmy Badnock, Robert Jerrick, Ton Tugendhat, and another. Good sport is at least guaranteed. Yeah. Oh, going to be better than good sport, Will. It's going to be better than good sport. You're going to have a front row seat. I am jealous. I'm very jealous of that fact. The first three have now provided themselves very capable of quality, of common performances, and they are not unburdened by the personality of the other runners and riders. Cleverly at least have a sense of humor, so the Braverman at least will raise an eyebrow, and Pretty Patel can be Cask's strength. Again, I think Cleverly is sunk. I think he's far too close to Sunak. Far too close to Sunak. I think he's too close to Boris Johnson as well. I think that will sink him. I do maybe might make it to the final four, but I think if the moderates are wanting to go for a candidate, then they'll get behind Tom Tugendhat. That's for sure. Members will then, of course, be in the hall for all the occasions. Receptions will be a buyer's market for horse trading and the glad handing, and selfies will be doled out very liberally. Promises will be made and broken. Each day's headlines will be eagerly scanned to know who's up and who's down and who will soon be out. Sunak will, of course, act as the impersonario. His speech will have to be an apology to the members for the election result. Oh boy, will it have to be an apology. A gentle tax on the dregs of Starmerism, so far so endured, and the promise of future recovery. He may find being an elder statesman, pardon me, find an elder statesman at 44 being a very daunting prospect, but if he keeps off the booze and keeps on the peloton, he can at least hope for another half century as the party's grandee. Yeah, he ain't going to stick around. The idea that he's going to stick around to be the party's grandee, no, he's gone. He will think I be making a very, very quiet exit. Expect him to, shall we say, drift into obscurity, into the backbenches, and to be very relatively quiet. And then eventually we'll get, oh, he's standing down, and off he goes. But that's what I expect. So it won't be easy for him to endure the 4 days of his would-be successors at least lamenting all his works, however close they may have been to him in the last 2 years, but he can at least be comfortable knowing that after a very long slog, nobody would begrudge him a week or two on the beaches of California, especially as he'd be very well placed to observe yet another more dramatic leadership election. I do not think I've been ever so excited to go for Birmingham. Famous last words. See you in the Wellington. I am jealous, Will. I am very, very jealous. God, can I start my own fringe event at the Conservative Party conference and just call it what? Just call it hard medicine. Just like, right, okay, guys. I'm here not to be nice to the Conservative Party, but this is your problems. This is why you're failing. You know, I doubt anyone would come to it as a fringe event, but oh boy, would that be fun? That would be incredibly fun on a lot of levels. It would be very, very fun. So what happens on that is this conference promises to be an absolute fun-filled fest. It's going to be an absolute circus. The clowns are gathering. They are preparing right now their horses, their tricks, their dandelions that will shoot out a stream of water into their opponents' faces. The custard pies are being readily baked and prepared. The ladder traps, the tricks, the japes. Oh, what fun we will have over the summer. And what normally, of course, promises to be a very boring summer for news might actually be quite a fun one, with a out and out full-blown conservative civil war, followed by what will absolutely be a battle in that Birmingham Convention Hall. Oh boy, promises to be an absolute wild ride. So as always, thank you very much for watching, and of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.